Board meeting of April 8th, 2019. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions to the minutes of March 11th?
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. At this time, we want to hear from two guests that we have here to speak, Charlie Sudbrink and Tricia Jessett from Cortland County Highway Department. You guys are up. If you want to stand up and stand over here, that would probably be the best thing.
There's a few faces here I don't recognize. I'm the superintendent of highways, and Tricia's the deputy superintendent. We've just been stopping by the towns this year. Any town that we've been doing a project in, we want to give them notice and approximate dates and the road. So Preble is going to be a Tisco. We've actually bumped it up a little bit due to Suco's schedule. So starting the 29th of this month, we'll be milling the shoulders out and putting hot mix binder down. And then approximately sometime in May.
Yeah, I think the first couple weeks in May, it's scheduled to be, we're going to be doing, what we're trying this year is some cold mix paving on a lot of our road projects. We want to get away from grinding, but on Atisco Valley, I think we feel like there's too much farm track to really try that. So we're going to be doing the hot mix binder and then surface treating on top of that. So you'll see the binder there for a little bit before you see the surface treating on it, because we'll surface treat it when we're doing the rest of our roads. When we come around and do that loop.
And I believe Song Lake is on the schedule to be surface treated as well.
Yep, Song Lake Crossing and Song Lake Road.
You're talking Preble Road from Route 11 all the way through to the county line then, or?
No, it's
Right
just from is it Whitney or
What's the
on
intersection?
Atisco? Yeah, Masters to Williams and Williams to the county line. So all the way from Masters to the county line is what's being done.
Unfortunately, this year we just broke the $2 million mark for all the total projects in Cortland County. So that's not a lot of money for 247 miles of road. But at least now we're trying to do them correctly so they last. In previous years, the county had a 3-year cycle for the stone and oil. Just it didn't matter the volume of traffic, the condition of the road. Every 3 years it gets stone and oil. And that doesn't make sense. Now we're evaluating the roads. The actual condition of the road is what treatment it's going to get. It may take a few years to notice the difference, but I'm confident after a while we will.
Get back to just stone and oiling roads that it'll save, that'll make a difference. We don't want to be doing the surface treating on roads where they're too far gone or it really doesn't make sense at that point. Rather put the money toward actually doing some good. But I think other than that, in the highway, some people in Preble may have noticed, I don't know how many residents in Preble probably go down to a recycling center. We're also implementing voluntary glass separation in the county. It's just voluntary at this point because Casella still runs our recycling center. But the recycling center and the landfill fall under the highway as well. And we're paying a little over $100 a ton to have our recyclables taken away. And glass is one of the heaviest things in our recycling stream. And Casella right now is taking it and bringing it to Ontario County Landfill for them to use in their landfill. So we're asking that residents voluntarily separate it, and we're keeping it in containers. We're collecting it at the transfer stations and at the recycling center, and we're bringing it to our landfill for beneficial use. We're in the process of getting it permitted by DEC right now to use as alternate cover, actually, for the open face of the landfill itself.
Instead of digging shale. As of the first of the year, the county's going to be taking the recycling center back over. Then there's a good chance that the glass separation will become mandatory. Just because there's absolutely no sense of it going through it. Getting a truck 70 some miles and going in a different landfill when we could use it ourselves.
It's a really big contaminant too, actually, in the recycling stream because it breaks up and it gets caught in the cardboard and caught in things and you can't pull it back out. So as we market as we get rid of our recyclables ourselves. It makes our recyclables a lot more attractive to other people.
I've got a question about the glass. Is it helpful to take the metal tops off the glass containers?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
We didn't want to get too much into the weeds with people at
Mhm.
first, but if anybody, is curious about definitely the tops, and sometimes there's like the aluminum wrapper around the top, any of that stuff that can come off, the more the better.
Right.
But really for right now, it's pretty clean. And like especially like papers, like a Snapple bottle, just taking the paper off quick around it. But for the cover on the landfill, it doesn't need to be perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, and hopefully it'll be a win-win-win, really.
Actually, the participation's been better than expected. We have a
Mhm.
10-yard dumpster down at the recycling center now. It's getting emptied about once a week.
Mhm.
The town of Virgil, we brought one of the old-fashioned 3-yard trip dumpsters that used to be at the recycling center years ago, and that's more than once a week. So we have another 10-yard on the way for the town of Virgil.
You said you won't be using Casella anymore as of January 1st. Have you done any run on numbers as far as how much money you'll be saving by taking it over yourself?
Well, quite honestly, when we did a financial analysis and presented it to the legislature, if we do it the same exact way Casella does it, we're not going to save any money without doing glass separation and this just gives us the flexibility to move with the markets. Right now, all the commodities are down.
And honestly, we were really upfront from the get-go that it's actually it's pretty even Steven running it just the way they are. And that's not even taking into consideration the initial investment of the equipment for us to purchase to operate in there. But like Charlie said, that's the hardest part about recycling is you can't really put a hard number on it, because today a bale of cardboard maybe worth $60, but 6 months from now or a year from now it could be 210. And we've actually seen that fluctuation in the markets themselves. That's the hardest part. You can't really predict the future with it. And right now we've been going to a lot of seminars and meeting with DEC and a lot of different stakeholders with the recycling markets. And right now there's a really big push for other markets to develop in the United States because the markets in China have crashed so hard. We don't want to be as reliant on them. So I think we'll see an uptick, and a lot of people in the industry feel like we will. So this way, if plastics are worth something, we'll have the flexibility to separate that and make that decision, and we won't be locked in a contract with another operator.
And honestly, as hard as the state is pushing for recycling, they don't want to give up on it, even though it's costing municipalities more to recycle than to landfill. It's a perfect opportunity for private business owners to get in. There's grants and everything else out there for them. But we're learning a lot. We went to a recycling MRF down in Appalachian, and that gentleman actually quoted us a lot cheaper price than Waste Management in Syracuse to bring the recyclables, and that's with no guarantee that the glass would be out. I'm talking 40% difference. So, I mean, I'm confident, once again, that we can run it with more flexibility and a little bit more efficiently to save money.
Do you have a plan where after a certain period of time you're going to evaluate it and see if it's worth it or not?
Oh yeah.
Well, what kind of time frame do you have in mind?
Well, we're in continual evaluation at this point. We're looking month to month when we see what the markets, and we'll be getting, we'll have quantities at the end of every month of how much we shipped out, how much it's cost us, and we can see how those compare, and we're going to be tracking them continually to see how it goes and what kind of, how that changes the, like life cost analysis of the investment of the equipment, and kind of track the future and see how long we think the payoff is going to be and how it's looking. But
also the good thing is that the landfill, the recycling center, the airport, it's all under highway, so we're technically the same department, and we're trying to make changes in one department that'll affect another. This month, I'm proposing to the legislature to buy a smaller mini track hoe with a small trailer that our dump trucks can pull around instead of always having a tractor trailer move a broom tractor or an excavator just to do a driveway culvert. But that, if by doing that, it frees up a tractor trailer that would possibly haul recyclables instead of buying another tractor trailer. You know, I mean, we're still trying to piece everything together.
And not have
In the right
redundant equipment in, you know, in these different, you know, in these different areas that are still under the same department. But it kind of seems like in the past it's been really segregated instead of, you know, crossing and utilizing some of the resources that we have right in house and not being quite as efficient. So we're trying to kind of pare that down and work together and use what we have. So we'll see, you know, recycling will definitely be, it's a living entity right now, you know, and we're looking into, you know, does it make sense to get a baler and bale cardboard? We're very cardboard heavy and we're doing continual audits. We've done 2 audits on our recyclables so far where both of us have literally gone down and pawed through the recyclables and weighed it and seen, you know, how much of what we have so that we know what we can kind of be looking at. And we're very cardboard heavy. And so we're doing that again continuously. You know, what we did in January and March, you know, we'll probably have different recyclables now that spring is coming and people bring different things in. So it's going to be a continual work in progress. And the county received a grant to hire a 50% match to hire a recycling coordinator, which most other municipalities have. And today was actually the new employee's first day. So I think having that person, that individual on board too will make a big difference because it seems like with recycling, the biggest thing is public education. And that will be one of the main focuses for this individual too. Going to, you know, schools and senior centers and public events and putting together flyers and talking to people.
And, you know, quite honestly, change is hard with the highway department, with recycling, with a lot of things. We may be being a little too aggressive. I'm not sure yet, but Don McAvoy from Supco said this is the most aggressive schedule he's ever seen with Corbin County as far as getting projects, roads all done by July. So we can concentrate on cleaning the ditches. And I mean, we have miles of maintenance we need to do on these roads. And I think that's what you have to do. You have to come out of the gate aggressive and see how you do. If you really want to change, and I think that's the same with the recycling center. You can't continue to do the same thing, and costs are going up and up.
So right now we're scheduled to finish all our paving projects, as Charlie said, by the beginning of July, and then do our surface treating right after the week after July 4th, and get all the surface treating so that by mid-July, all of our crews will just be on maintenance. We've got a lot of shoulders that are in terrible shape, a lot of maintenance work. We've got trees, ditching, you know, got some structure repair and maintenance that needs to be done. So.
Anybody have any questions?
Thanks for your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you guys for coming. All right. All right. Jane?
Dog control, 2 dogs running at large, 1 unwanted, and 1 was adopted. 105 miles traveled through the town. Justice report, $16,524 as March fines.
Thanks, Jane. Jeff, highway report?
Yeah, a bunch going on. It's, full swing. April 1st, we're plowing snow and we're sweeping roads and a lot going on. So I did meet with the highway committee, Jim Harris and Dave Morris, over the weekend. Went over some detailed more detailed than what you got here. I also emailed that to everybody. Did everybody get that okay?
Mhm.
Okay. Good.
Yep.
So if there's any questions, and the other thing I'd like to do anytime after that, what we've decided on is the Wednesday before the Monday meeting. So will be our meeting day for the highway committee at 5:30. And if any other board member, I'll have that report for the highway committee. Anytime after that, I'd be happy to sit down with one or a couple of your, as long as we don't interrupt the meetings law, Don. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but I want a joint effort with the board to keep things moving, keep everybody informed. So, you have what I hope is the final tally for as many times as we were out sanding and plowing at the top of your list. I also went around with Don McAvoy last week and he got me preliminary figures. And once we get the roads swept and cleaned up good and a couple of good rains on them, a lot easier to see what work we need to do on them. But I've got those preliminary figures in and how that's going to work out. State budget. The chip stayed flat. The paved New York money stayed flat. Okay, I guess that's good news at this point. The bad news is the extreme winter recovery money, EWR money, that was eliminated. So that's $12,050 within a few pennies. And the county folks have stepped out, but to Cortland County, that EWR money was just shy of $250,000. That we won't be seeing. And to be honest with you, when they showed up here, I thought they were going to say they weren't going to do a Tisco Valley Road this year. So I was glad to hear that's still on the list. Main thing I wanted to bring up tonight is I got preliminary budget numbers to replace the number 5, our little 1-ton dually. And I've got wind of some other counties that have some, I think, a little more appealing pricing. So I'd ask to do, because we need to take $40,000 out of the equipment capital account, I'd like to approve a permissive referendum to do that towards the purchase of this. I don't want to lock in on that number because I think I can do better. It's going to be on the outside, it's about $72,000. The other money would come out of the current budget equipment fund, but it's also 5 to 7 month lead time, and I don't want to get into December if I can help it too. So this 30 days will give me another avenue to try to find some better pricing, and then come back to you next month as long as the permissive referendum's looking good, and come up with what dealer and what setup we're going to go with.
So you'd be replacing a truck?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so how much do you think you can get for the used vehicle that you have now?
Low 30s.
Mm-hmm.
There's a pretty good market from the last one. I think we got 31.5 for when it was 5 years old. I think at that time we paid 47 and change. So we get the best 5 years out of them, and then let somebody else have them. And there's pretty good pricing out there. The trucks, the chassis are real good pricing. The accessories on it, that's where they get their money back, and that's why I want to look at a couple of other vendors.
And you mentioned the other night that the 4,500 would have a 10-foot plow instead of a 9-foot plow,
Yeah.
because that's a heavier truck too.
It is
So you
one
get-
step heavier than what we have now.
So you can plow more, and you kind of reduce the number of trips on some roads, right?
There's
from plowing.
actually 4 roads that we pinned down that if we had just a little bit more, it'd be one in and one out on these dead end roads instead of in and out, which would save a lot of time and less times pulling out into traffic and everything. So it's something that we need a little heavier truck to do it, but if we can push that 10-foot blade, I think it'll pay off in the long run. So, thanks, Jim, for bringing that up.
Jeff, this is a state bid or equivalent?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
The bid that I'm curious about, I just found out about today, is Chautauqua County bid. through the New York State piggybacking law, you're familiar, we can actually buy off of that. So they've got a great purchasing department out there that's very aggressive. My preliminary figures actually came off an Onondaga County bid. The chassis price was good, but I wasn't real happy if that's shown day before the meeting. They weren't real aggressive with their accessories, the dump box and some of the stuff you bolt onto it. They were, I thought, kind of high. So, yeah, at this time, if we could, do the permissive referendum, I appreciate it, just to hopefully get it here before heavy winter got here. And then I'll come back with you next month as long as that flies. And if it's way out to lunch, we can discuss that then, and the highway committee also.
Don, can you explain to us the permissive referendum
Sure.
process?
Sure. When basically, there's certain actions that the board takes that are subject to permissive referendum. So withdrawing money from a reserve account that is set up for a type versus set up for a particular piece of equipment, when you resolve to withdraw money from that type of account, it's subject to this permissive referendum. And what it does, it just forces us to publish a notice in the paper one time that provides, basically constructive notice to the residents of Preble that if you object to that authorization, you can force it to go to a vote. So you publish in the paper, and then there's a 30-day time period for someone to file a petition. And unless there's a petition filed, once the 30 days are up, you've got authorization to pull the money out. So you'd be in a position then anytime thereafter to actually spend the money.
Okay. So we would need to make a resolution.
Yep,
for this.
subject to requirements, meeting the requirements of permissive referendum.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Anybody want to make that resolution?
I'll make that resolution.
Okay.
Second.
A second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried?
So the minutes would reflect that the purpose of that money is to apply towards the purchase of is it a 2019 and or just a
Might even be a 20 by then. So I
okay
don't know.
a
Yeah,
Dodge
4500.
4500 2019 or newer, 2018 or newer.
19.
All right.
And who would be putting this in the paper? Who would?
And
Okay.
just a further update, the recreation department mower that is in Cortland, they're waiting for the cab assembly that's supposed to be in possibly late this week or the first of next week. So you'll see that probably by middle of next week at the latest.
Okay.
About time for the grass to really start growing.
I'm glad we got it in time. Yeah. Yeah.
And also Amnesty Days, I've gotten just today, I got a couple calls on it. So just a refresher, it's Friday, May 3rd and Saturday, May 4th. It's 1 week earlier than normal.
Now, I've got a question for you, Jeff. You said that you're canceling the Ames linen service. Well, what did you actually send to Ames? And if you're canceling that, what are you doing to replace it?
Well, what we had was two things. That was your coverall cleaning. And when we were in the old shop, we were always on a crappy floor and always covered in crap, to be honest with you. And now we keep surplus cardboard around and we don't get anywhere near as dirty as what we used to. So, and there's times of the year you're not, like spring and fall are the big times, most of the switch over and like that. So that's the biggest chunk of it is why I'm saying I don't think we really need it now because we're not getting as dirty. We used to have coverall just to do anything in that other building because it was just, you couldn't ever clean the floor per se. Now we kind of keep it pretty clean. So that's the biggest part. We also get the roll towels, you know, the cloth towels, and, you know, I just don't, you know, for that kind of money, for less than half that, we'll just use throwaway towels. My thought on that.
So what would you do once you get a laundry bag full of stuff? Where are you going to send it to?
I thought maybe, no.
Uncle Jim.
Got a washer going in up there or something?
Well, and we're still looking around for some other things. Problem with Ames, and they've been great to deal with, but they don't have a counter service like what Homer Laundry used to have, where we used to go. And so you're paying X dollars a month just to have them show up there. You know, you don't just go down there and get your coveralls cleaned. So there's times you weren't getting it. To answer your question, Jim, I'm not 100% sure yet, but I'll figure out something.
Okay.
So, but it's like I say, the biggest thing is we used to, you know, 2 or 3, 4 pair of coverall a month, and they're so dirty, then you want to take them home to put them in your own washer. They're just nasty. And now when we do put them on, they're just not anywhere near as bad. So it's an evolution. It's part of the new building. Some little cost savings I'm hoping to see.
It's good to hear of additional cost savings being in the new building, what this new building is giving us.
So Betty Ann just volunteered to wash her house, so we're good.
Sweet.
I want Dave to learn to be clean when he works on vehicles.
Well, forget Nick lives with me too, so he said, I know what that's like.
Okay, thanks a lot, Jeff.
Okay, thank you.
You clean up good afterwards, all right?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Okay, we have nobody from Recreation, County Legislature. Don is not here. Jane?
Zoning and code. There were no building permits issued in March. 58 miles traveled for the town. 5 building inspections, 27 hours worked. 2 fire inspections, 4 complaint follow-ups, 11 telephone inquiries. Planning board meeting April 24th at 7 o'clock. ZBA meeting May 2nd at 7:30.
Thanks, Jane. And we have our town historian who is present today. And Jay Curry's making his debut as town historian. So Jay, if you could stand up and just give us a little blurb on what you're doing right now.
Okay, a couple of things I'm working on. Getting all the files organized a little bit. Basically, the way I'm going to set it up is that, you know, if you're a 10-year-old, you say, all right, I want to look at stuff for the fire department or the sauerkraut plant, you'll be able to go in there and find it rather easily. One of the other things I've been working on for a couple of years on my own is some of the digital archives regarding the town of Preble through a website that I use. I can find just about anything as far back as the late 1800s, as far as what's happening in town. So I'm trying to get that so that I can save that offline and not have to keep relying on another website to basically downloading it. So that we, you know, in the future, somebody can go in and just punch it in and have it right there right away available. So I'm still trying to get my head around everything. I've only been involved half a dozen times already, so we're getting there.
Do you have any events planned for the year, like for the public?
Not yet.
Okay.
Trying to get my head around everything.
Yeah, that's fine.
So.
That's fine. Yeah. Have you had a meeting with Ann yet?
Nope, I haven't.
Okay.
She's on my list. I talked with a few of the other folks in town. Baldwin, is it? I'm sure. I talked to Sandy Haynes a week or so ago. Some of the, our elders in town chatting with. I talked with Pat Griswold. They've made some donations, pictures and stuff. They let me take pictures of pictures so that we can have it in our archives of different things. And so, talked with Betty Ann quite a bit. We're getting there.
Okay. I'm sure Ann has a lot of stuff in boxes in her house.
Yeah, I'd love to.
It'd be nice to go through some of that.
Oh,
with her.
absolutely.
Yeah. Anybody else have questions for Jay? Okay. Okay, thanks a lot. All right. Okay, Jane?
Okay, we collected $1,886.91, dispersed $1,876.91 to the town of Preble, and $10 to New York State Egg and Markets. Tax collector, we collected $63,061.27 in March.
Now we'll go to unfinished business. There's a few things that we need to talk about. One is the Time Warner Cable 10-year contract. Don, can you give us a little update on that?
Yeah, very briefly, I've heard nothing, not a thing. So
Well, we were talking to, Don and I we have a correspondence with a young lady who sent us an email. And what they're trying to do is locate some of the streets that are not being served that we talk about all the time. And so they're working on that. And so we haven't heard anything so far.
I have not.
They've been working on a non-disclosure agreement for about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's- really? You don't have a standard NDA?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So you have different contact than I have? Because I'm glad to stick someone on it tomorrow if you want. Just to,
Remember her name?
if you want to email that
In
to
a
me,
moment.
Don.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Yeah.
And
I'll just forward.
Yeah.
my clerk's going to be in tomorrow,
Okay.
so I can have him make some calls.
Mm-hmm.
But there's
I'll pass on to you
Been a
anything
dearth.
that I get
Yeah,
from her.
I've
Erin,
heard
I
nothing.
think her name was.
It's very off the top of my head, but I've got it right here. Okay.
Okay. So next item is Ed Bennedy. Don and I and Rick Fritz went to Binghamton on Monday, and we had a hearing with the judge. And the judge at the end of it pretty much said that he's going to give them 30 days in prison and 30 days in jail and $1,000 fine for each of them if they don't get things cleaned up within 60 days. So that issue it's basically been written already. And if things are still not up to satisfaction in 60 days, Don can implement that. Send a trooper to their door and they would go to jail. So Don, if you have anything
sure there's
to add on to that.
they admitted to the contempt application. That's what we did. It was actually on Wednesday. We did get together on Monday, and we got together on Wednesday. We got together on Monday at the site to see where they were at. And between Monday early afternoon and Wednesday early afternoon, they did scramble around, and they brought the property much closer than it's ever been in our involvement. The yard on the east side, which between the trailer and Route 81, that was basically in compliance. In fact, one of the trailers that they had 3 of them in that yard. And the biggest one, the flatbed, that's actually on this out by Route 281 with a for sale sign on it now. So if you're interested, there it sits.
Might be cheaper than most now.
On the west side, again, largely cleaned up. At that point, the tractor was not yet running. It sits there now, the cover's off it, and there's certainly clear evidence that they've used it. And if it's a usable item, we can't claim it's debris anymore, really. The main part that they're really yet he's not in compliance with is there's a stockade fenced in area, which would appear that they've cleaned it out to some extent, but there's 2 pieces of the judge has found them in contempt and sentenced them to 30 days each and a $1,000 fine, but they can purge the contempt and the fine imposition by being in full compliance as far as the condition of the yards within 30 days. And then another 30 days, I think, Jim, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me, they advise the court and us that they are getting a shed. And they're going to put the shed in that yard, and whatever, they can put implements and store whatever inside the shed, but the rest of that yard is supposed to be clean. And they've got 60 days from last Wednesday to do that. So it was kind of interesting. So we got the equivalent of if we had had a hearing. They admitted to being in contempt, and their last minute scramble, I think, saved them from going to jail. I think the judge was prepared to, but there's certainly a reluctance on the part of the court to ultimately throw someone in. But that I've got to get the order reduced to writing, get it down to him, signed this week. We're going to serve it personally on each of them, and then we're going to sit back and count the days. And I think it really kind of brought it to fore with the one defendant. The other is kind of joking away. But so I think it was, if you were to go down and drive by there now, I think it is significantly different than it has been historically. So
we have results from our efforts, I think.
Right. And this permanent injunction, I mean, I'm going to try and remind my clerk to stop there either in the morning or on the way home tomorrow, because he lives in Syracuse, to take some more pictures so we document where we're at now in case stuff comes back on. So, and we did take pictures last Monday, but there was still substantial debris. From Monday to 1 o'clock on Wednesday, there appears to have been a decent, relatively in the ballpark of compliance, if you will, certainly on the east side, and then again with some exceptions on the west. So
okay, good. Thanks, Don. Next item is the snow plowing intermunicipal agreement. Jeff, can you give us a little comment on that?
Back to right before the last meeting, met with Don was there and Pat Snyder and Charlie and Trish that we just met, and just went over it. And I'd already voiced my concerns to Charlie that it was just too wordy, that other contract so long. So they went back to actually our agreement that Don and I hammered out 6 years ago now, and didn't change it a whole lot really. And so I guess it must have been okay back then. And it's 7 or 8 pages, I'm not sure, but that's what they want to use countywide, every town. And they want to use, and they also want everybody to sign it, relatively around the same time, so that it's about the same. And they're just mentioning tonight, want to move that back a month, I think, Don,
right
to the end of April, because a year ago today we had snow, and a week ago today we had snow. So there's snow in April, and technically you could be out of your contract at that point. So, which that makes sense. But yeah, and then the only other, so that's the contract, and then you have the fees. And I think, that's something that can be addressed a little more readily, because with a 5-year contract, you're like the price of salt went up 20% this year. You're not gonna have an opportunity to adjust that. So, I think it can bring them back to the table more often to keep the contract in line. Agree with that, Don?
yes.
Makes sense.
So, so we haven't seen the new copy yet then, right, Don? If you're talking a date change, or
No.
have we?
Not the one with the date change, but
Everything
I've got
else?
right. That's right.
Okay, so we're still waiting on a final.
We're pretty close, really. I talked to Pat Snyder today, who's involved, and I actually put a call into Karen Howe. She wasn't available, but I've left a message, and we ought to be in position next month to make it. It'll be effective at the end of April. So It should be in pretty good shape.
Thanks, Don. On to new business. Final budget amendment for 2018. We need a resolution to accept that. Everybody has a copy of it. And these are amendments that Gina does. They're accounting amendments of various funds being transferred to different accounts. I probably couldn't tell you, what each one of these numbers means, but you could certainly call Gina and she can explain each one of these line items for you. So this is an annual procedure that we do every year. So I need a motion to.
Motion to accept the resolution that Gina has provided for us
Of the final budget amendments for 2018.
for 2018.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, amnesty days, as Jeff has mentioned, Friday and Saturday, May 3rd and 4th. Newsletter. Don and I, Don is mostly working on the newsletter, and we all want to submit our articles pretty soon. Jeff, you probably have an article coming. And Jay, you probably have an article in the works. In the works, okay. I have an article in the works too. So we get it into Don. Don coordinates it all, and Don and I edit it, and then we send it to the printer for various proofs. So we're working on that. We want to get that out before Memorial Day weekend. We want to get it out maybe a week before, so people have it, and there's encouragement to go to the parade, go to the ceremony, be a part of the community, and so that's what we're working on right now. So anybody who would like to write something, if anybody wants to write something, an article, an update on something, on any topic, let Don know. Just email him, send it to him. Next item that I don't have here, but I'm going to mention it, is Memorial Day Parade and Ceremony coming up on May 27th, which is Monday. I don't have a speaker yet. I've been looking. I had 2 people, and they couldn't do it for whatever reason. So if anybody knows of a speaker who would like to speak on that day, let me know, and we can work something out. I think we have a backup, and that's Jeff and Jay, right? You guys are kind of getting something together in case you don't have somebody.
Oh, Jay, I was relying on him because since I can remember, the fire department's been a part of that parade and making it happen, help making it happen logistically and other reasons. And I thought it might be a good time to, highlight the history of the fire department too. I mean, not taking nothing away from the guys that died for this country on Memorial Day, but I don't know. I just think it's a lot of guys did a lot of stuff on the home front too, so on the history end of it.
Okay. So you guys will be back up in case I can't find anybody. I could probably get the fellow who did it last year, but I don't really like having him twice in 2 years. I like to have different people come and speak. So so that's where we're at. And if anybody has any ideas about a speaker, please let me know. We received $1,771.89 from Northeast Transformers and $741.92 from USPS. At this time, I'd like to open up the meeting for public comment or questions. If anybody has anything that they'd like to say, you can say it now.
Don't look at me, I haven't got nothing to say.
Oh, that's
Per
first.
usual.
I think our work here is done.
Go home early tonight, right? Okay, so we need a motion to pay the general fund vouchers.
Make a motion to pay general fund vouchers abstracts number 4, number 64 to number 85, totaling $4,882.51.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Need a motion to pay the highway fund vouchers.
I make a motion to pay the highway fund vouchers abstract number 4, numbers 33 to 42, totaling $1,721.36.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Need a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.